Whoa.
Hello and welcome to the Adulting Will podcast. I am your co-host Joshua. I am joined as always by Kevin. Kevin, why don't you start us off today?
I will do that. So we're welcoming Kelly Tunstall and Ferris Plock to the show. They are local Bay Area artists who have expanded their reach globally because you guys have had shows all over the world at this point. And you have a pretty long bio on the page, but I do want to kind of mention a few of the things. You've focused on human and animal forms, and as it says on your bio, for a certain surrealism to the point of abstraction. Also, just the kind of the two different styles that you two have and how they work together is pretty amazing. Kelly with a lot of kind of the female identifying characters, and your work, Ferris, is a little more masculine, but it's also got some really great sort of, shapes involved as well. And I just, I'm a huge lover of both of your work. We've known each other quite a while. I think going all the way back to the Receiver Gallery days in the Mission.
Yeah.
And maybe even a little before that, done some t-shirts together, some posters together. And, the two of you have been incredibly impactful in other areas of my life. I think of myself as sort of a community involved person, but you two introduced me to Hospitality House San Francisco, which is amazing that I did not know about them before. So welcome to the show, and thank you so much for taking some time. I know having both of you on with two kids and all of your projects going on can be a little bit of a, it's a little stretch on time, but thank you. I'm really, really happy to have you on. So welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Hey, Kev, I know I texted you that I wasn't going to talk this episode because I was tired. But what is this? What is this gallery in the Mission you're talking about that you met? I've never heard of that.
It doesn't exist anymore. It was on Valencia and in between 25th and 24th. Is that right? Somewhere. And its roots. It started actually in the inner Sunset, and then it moved. Then it moved to the Mission for a while, and cannot remember the name. Jay Hopkins.
Jay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, and
Kev,
worked there.
That's how I met Forrest Walker too. He's through Jay's gallery, who's a really good friend of our family. He's known as the inappropriate uncle to our children.
Every family needs an inappropriate uncle.
We'll let you fill in the blanks.
Yeah, if you don't know Forrest's work, you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my part in that was my brother and I were running a merch company out of the back of the gallery. And a little actually prior to that even happening, I think both Ferris and Kelly separately, and maybe even right before they started dating, came to Ashbury Images when I was working there, and we did shirts for different projects. And then soon after that, I found out, oh my gosh, they're now a couple. And here we are, roll forward. How many years is that now that you two have been together?
The math gets a little rusty right around there.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
13 years?
Yeah, about 13 years, something like that.
13 plus.
Yeah.
So all these artists would gather and like earnestly try to like show their art, and it was this big like really great scene. And then Kevin came in just trying to make a buck, set up his little stand in the back, t-shirts. Where are the artists at? Give me the cash. Every time, man. Every time.
Oh my goodness!
It'll be on sale at the back of the show. Get your extra large t-shirts. No, I mean, we kind of look at some of those days as some of the golden days of our art scene. It was when I first saw Kelly's artwork. It was at 111 Minna Gallery, and she had an exhibition that had been documented with a catalog. There was pricing, there was pictures of everything, and I saw her artwork and was just like, oh wow. I had been warned by a friend that my work, I would enjoy her work. Like we were from the same universe, maybe not from the same planet, but I found out pretty quickly that there was something there that our characters were able to cohabitate. So, would you
So
say?
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so let me ask each of you a little bit individually, because you obviously I mean, your careers are at a very different point now than when I met you 13 years ago, but also like sort of how did you both land on this was going to be the thing for you? I guess we can start with Kelly. Like, what, after you got done with school, because you went to CCA, which is where my wife also graduated, and one of hers is right behind me. But like, what was it that kind of drew you to wanting to do this and like continue this as your kind of as your your employment and your career?
It is really one long trajectory.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't remember a time when this is not like when I stopped doing what I do now. It's just one long path.
Were
And
your parents artists?
I think everyone is in their own way.
Right.
You know, they certainly trained me in certain ways, and they are avid antiquers. And I
Mhm.
feel like my biggest education was from experiencing the world through ephemera and
Right.
objects, and the illustration styles of the world are so interesting in typographical forms. So I think that's a great education, is just looking at the world around oneself and drinking that in. And I took the boys to urban art just yesterday in Berkeley, Oakland, which is kind of where I started out digging in Oakland, right? Because I'm a veteran thrifter, right? And I have, like that is a great way to look at the world, is through this very strange slice of the things that people discard, throw away, and you can. And they were walking around going like, "What can I make out of this? I want to buy that and do this." Right? Like that magic is there. So I am, in many ways, exactly the same in which I'm responding to that outside stimuli, and I can't help what I do. I've never. It just keeps building, and I think that's the richness and depth as I go on and as we continue with our great conversation, right? Is and long conversation, and it's a conversation I plan to have my entire life. It's not a thing I take lightly, but it's also not a thing that I like to consider deeply necessarily. It's just it's how I process the world, and there's a lot of things that go into that, and my parents
Can you
are
see over a period of time your state in your art? Like, I was going through things at this time in my life. Is it easy to see that in the art, or is it so abstract that it wouldn't even be noticeable?
well, it's super easy to see because I put my age on every single one of my paintings. So just from a time perspective, yes, that is very practical for me to be able to look and think, okay, well, I was there and now I'm here. Yes.
And also, let me interject with something here. Coming in to your process and seeing your studio, it felt like walking into an apothecary and a laboratory, and it wasn't just an art studio. As
Mhm.
I say this often about Kelly's work, is like if you're only looking at the female figures that she's painting, you're missing three-quarters of what she's trying to accomplish. There's so much innovation going on. She's always so curious, I think that's where I kind of stepped into this world, into her world, wanting to expand my vocabulary with materials. And she was just like, okay, well, here, try this. Use this powder, use this. Oh, you want that? I didn't know how to figure out those things, and she taught me a lot right away about like, oh well, if you want that effect, use this material, and it was really, I don't know, broadened.
It's a massitive experiment. That's all I can say about it. Like
You guys sound like wizards.
we are really.
I would agree.
I mean, she still comes home from the art store like, look what I found. And
That's so cool.
we still, the wonder is still there, which I think is a huge part of why we're still doing what we're doing. We still get excited about
It really evolves.
the materials.
The materials are a great place to start to evolve anything, right? And like, I got this weird foil pen the other day, and I'm like, this is so exciting! Like, so excited. It's still there. Like,
It's really cool.
I'm not set. Like, I don't settle. I can't. Like, I can barely sit still most of the time, and and somehow to be engaged with the material world and be able to control it. That's kind of, I think, where our strength is to turn. I mean, any artist, right? If you can change the thing that you see in your head into something that's physical, like that's alchemy. That's fucking magic, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't take it for granted. It's something that I don't know about you, but I carefully guard within myself.
To
And
not
so
like lose it or to distort it, or what? What are you guarding?
it's just this place that I need to be at to make my best work. It takes some time to get to the place that is a comfortable place and a good place for me to be. And this year has been the hardest place time ever to get to a happy place. And I thrive off of stability, but also some fluctuation. But when you flip everything, I just had a show, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. It was just I just felt success getting something on the wall, and it was a solo show, and the degree to which I love working with Ferris was not in the show with me. I brought in one of our sons to help me, to collaborate with me, because I was feeling such a lack of this part of the world. So I brought him in with the kids.
Nice.
Sorry, baby, I'm retired now.
So Ferris, I mean, what about you? Like, how did this sort of evolve for you? And I want to also throw in, like, because I know a bit about the two of you and have been around you, that I know music is also incredibly important to both you, and we've totally nerded out at shows together many times.
Absolutely, yes.
And obviously, we like to talk to grown-up punks, and I know skateboarding and music has been incredibly important to you, Ferris, and music. I don't know about skateboarding with you, Kelly, but definitely music. And like I said, I've nerded out at shows with the two of you, and it's just like, it's such a joy to see you two taking such joy in other people's art. I find some artists can be a little like shut off from that to some degree because they're so focused on their own stuff. But like the joy of, like, especially the last time when we all were at Built to Spill and the kids were there, it was like really amazing to watch the two of you like super excited about other people's art.
Yeah.
I
feel like I missed out on the pressure cooker of art school. I didn't go there. I don't have that kind of guarded, where you're creating your identity and building your identity under a microscope, and you're under the council of elders that review your artwork and stuff. I didn't have that, so I feel like that's really freed me to. I love so many people. I'm so blown away by people's work, and watching people evolve. Some of my, best friends I've seen over the years just completely transform, and that's always. I just feel amazed when I see that occur. I've been there. I'm thinking specifically of Mario Mars One, where he went. He just he was painting a certain way. He took a year off just to draw, and then he came back with this other atmospheric style of painting that I didn't see coming from a million miles away. And we have a little piece that we keep in our house. It's constant inspiration for me. It's one of those pieces where I look at it and I think I have a bunch of those people in my life that inspire me. Brian Barnacle is another guy. We have a painting. I got to sit in and watch him paint, and a lot of artists, once you're one-on-one, it feels like they're very generous and they do want to talk. And my experience is very much, and it might be just the personalities that I reached out to. I don't know, but people were always pretty generous with ideas and kind of process. But Brian was one of those people who was a true painter, came completely from the painting side of stuff, and I'm more of an illustrator. I don't know. Just his process was so different. Just I learned so much from just watching him and being with him and talking with him. And I guess I never intended to be where I am now. That wasn't like a trajectory that I even thought of. I was a writer.
So Ferris Plock, where are you exactly?
I don't know. What day is it? What year is it? No, this last year has been bizarre. But I moved to SF because I loved skateboarding. It was a mecca of skateboarding. And my brothers lived here, and the music scene was amazing. And it's just a place where I think in the 90s for me, it was a place where you could come and try out stuff, and you could be experimental in San Francisco and not be judged if it didn't work out properly. You could flush your ideas out. And it was a place where a lot of stuff incubated, and then if you got something awesome, you moved on to like LA, or it was like a landing pad before greatness or something. And that I felt like our art scene was kind of the first one that really stuck around for a while. And I feel like we had a lot of really solid years there.
Well, and everyone helped each other. And I think that ethos, right? Like if you reached out and you needed whatever it was, someone would be there, right? And there was this joy and humor, right, that I didn't get out of other places in the world, and totally. I still don't, And I'm talking Matt Fury, Jay Howell, really fucking funny stuff. And the world can see how funny it is now, but like in our little part of the world that maybe people are only now starting to see, if you made a joke and you made someone else laugh that was next to you, like that's a win. Like that's a great thing. And maybe you put a $20 bill on the back of your painting when it sells, so that when someone bought it for $20, they get their money back. That's a Forrest Walker.
That was our Forrest Walker.
That's like
moment.
classic art generosity, like the art of generosity, right? And so Ferris came to me, and I met you.
I came to.
It was. I met you at CCAC, or we were emailing or something, and he was like, "Can I get your honest advice? I need your honest opinion on my work." And I had seen his work and he had seen my work. He thought I was someone else because it was like pre-internet, before there were pictures of people, right? Like, you couldn't just be like, "Who's blah, blah, blah," and there they are. And you can see what they look like. And when you run into them on the street, you know who they are, right? Amazing. This was not a thing. And so he thought I was someone who had dropped off my work at a show for me. And I was that person, right? So he kind of figured out that that was me, this other person. And then he was introduced to me at something or other, and I was this completely other person. And I think he just like walked away, as I remember it, like just walked.
Still not convinced.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
13 years, still not sure.
But then he wrote, and he's like, what can I do? Like, where can I go with this? What can I do to make this stuff better? And you know, I think use my studio at some point. I'm like, yeah, let's sit down and figure out some of this work. Like, how do you work with these materials? And you cannot keep framing your artwork in duct tape.
I was coming from using. I had moved back to SF, and I was working for a .com that everybody there knew was not going to be around for very long. You know, it had every cliche. It had like an arcade room, had a snack room, and sure enough, I think it was like 2001. The entire company was brought into a room, and 3/4 of us were let go all at once. And suddenly, it was that free fall feeling. Like, well, what am I going to do? And I had a deck, a whole stack of my old decks, skateboards that I kept in the garage. I pulled those out. I threw some Jasco on them, took all the graphics off, sanded them down, painted some stuff on them, put them in the cafe in the lower heat, and people bought them all. And that was it. That was my, okay, well, I'm making money at this. Okay. And it was quite literally, that was the beginning. No big like, I'm gonna be, it was like, oh shit, I don't have a job. How am I going to pay rent? Like, you know, I love drawing. I love, you know, it wasn't necessarily, you know, my calling. It was just, here's something. And I've always needed to be working, either writing or drawing. So it's a compulsion. So I was doing it anyway. I was just
still is, honey.
Still am, yeah.
But the funny thing is, at the time, and this is before I had met Ferris, you know, the materials that were available in the office when the office closed down, right, and they kicked everyone out, he beelined to the office supply closet and did this. I imagine with a bag, right, like large, into a bag, and
all the
whiteout and all the Sharpies. So the evolution from this point to what you see now is,
where it started.
But I remember seeing your work, and it was some gallery on like 14th Street or 16th Street, and it was like Soma and up, and I don't remember what it was, but it struck me that this was one of the more advanced storytellers that I had seen in my time, right? And, you know, so that has been the strength of Ferris all along. And I always say that the very best artists are great storytellers, must be. Like, you know, maybe that's not entirely true. You know, some people are masters of their materials, and that's how they express oneself. But the greatest artists in terms of music or what have you are that I connect with are storytellers, right? And so immediately that was evident to me in his work. And so to continue that trajectory into this very long story is, it's the great joy of my life. And, to share this guy with 2 kids, right? To literally live with one of the greatest storytellers that I know. I mean,
This is the most inspiring story I've ever heard because I'm in that .com world and I've been in that experience many times. And this is honestly the most inspiring thing. I'm going to quit my job tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so here's the thing, right? And I was working in that world for a very long time as well. And so I had layered my fine art work with, some design. And it was incredible work. I loved what I did. And,
you were working for a think tank.
I was working for a think tank.
Not just
I was
like
working for a modern wizard. And, like an inventor. And it was literally involved like glow in the dark powder one day and spray painting your face with masks the other day. And we shared offices with Facebook and they would steal our desks. And it was crazy. But, I handed over money to Andy Rubin to start Android, like a stack of $10,000 bills or something. It was crazy. My life has been wild. But, I had a company that wound down and I was pregnant with Gus. And, at that, I had such fun. But, that time ended and I was left, like both of us, we've gotta work, right? Like I gotta get to work and maybe I go back to work. I don't know. So I started interviewing and I'm like, oh, I don't think that's a good idea because, I want to raise Ferris had raised Brixton for the most part, our oldest child. And, I had this next child, and I guess we'll just go for it and try and, again, paint out of necessity. And so you make it work. And, it's, you don't like those forcing functions when you're in them. It feels like the scariest time. And it's the golden handcuffs. Like we say, it's so easy to keep going and so easy to, when you're ready, when you have stability, it's the hardest thing in the world to break out of that thing. So I think if this time now this year teaches us anything, it's that even these most painful things, maybe it changes us and maybe it changes us for the better. I don't know yet, but from our past experiences, just a little push. How are we evolving? I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I dearly hope so. I hope that this moment in time that everyone is having is, and I don't think that's necessarily the case, but at least to take stock of oneself and one's life. And if you've decided if you hate it, then you need to move, or do something, and
Well, and you have kids, so there's that whole in the back of your head, you are wanting the world to become a better place. We're doing our as much work possible in our limited capacity to try to change that.
We're doing our best, but to make them like these great people that love a lot of people and can carry a good world forward.
Kevin's work has always been inspirational.
It's
and
true.
Just to know that there's other people out there trying to affect change and do something positive. And it takes courage and it takes hard-headedness a lot. Kevin, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like it's one of those things, and even having conversations with employees recently, it's like, am I being an asshole or am I being honest with myself about what I expect from people? It's like, I got to kind of like walk that line. One of the things that I find really amazing about your work. And I guess like now that I've seen all the collaborations over the years, it's so obvious that it works well together. Like when did you sort of discover that was, like that was going to be a thing? Cause it's obvious now that I've seen it, but I don't know that I would have said, knowing the two of you separately and seeing your work hanging in different shows together and in shows separately, I would have been like, oh, they should definitely collaborate. And when was that kind of epiphany moment for the two of you, other than the fact that you obviously work well together as partners
It
across
was a very, very specific moment. And we're like, okay, either this is going to work or it doesn't. And we have to be really honest about it. Like, we're going to try this. We're going to go 1,000% on it. And if it fails, then, and if it is great, then we'll move forward with it. And we got a big wall at Anno Domini down in San Jose. We got a 40-foot wall. And Sherry Lake, you let us paint it together. And it worked.
Yeah.
We tested it in the most gigantic possible way.
Really big.
Go big or go home.
Absolutely. And it's hilarious because we don't generally paint at that scale at all.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. Did you just draw a line down the center and split it in half?
That's not what they do. No, their stuff is completely enmeshed.
Yeah.
Amazing.
There
was a lot of fun, and being an introverted person, I was I'm very very nervous. I've learned how not to be. It takes training, but my nature is to be alone and to have my conversations with myself. And the idea of interacting with other people as an introvert, taking energy away from me, was kind of scary. As meeting Kelly, who's an extroverted person, and her needing energy from other people to kind of gain energy and find a balance. That was the interesting sidebar of it. I felt like, wow, okay, well, we balance each other on that level too. And also, she was raised. Her mom was a caregiver to children, like had a daycare center, and she was surrounded by stories and by kids' stories and by the bright colors and all that, like continual. You read to the children all these things, all the kids' books. And my mom, school teacher. My house was covered in kids' books, colors. And, my grandfather was this amazing carpenter that built all these amazing pieces of furniture for kids, but also colored them really wildly. And it made sense how she approached her shows and how we talked about it before we started, and how we would have ideas. We still do this. We have ideas. And we talk to each other first when we think of paintings, like, oh, wouldn't that be funny if that character was doing this? These characters end up really taking on lives of their own. I've caught myself multiple times talking about, well, I didn't like that outfit on my character. If she was like, why'd you paint over that? Or why'd you add something of it? Well, I don't think he looked good enough. And, it is a conversation, right? And so she'll, on one of our collaborations, I'll paint something in, and then she'll paint something to react to my piece, and then I'll see what she's done. It's a fun balancing act, and it's a fun conversation.
Well, and this part, it's so hard to paint alone. Like I was saying, even if it's like we did a show in Portland and it was both of us working on the same concept, right? But it was fine because I could see where he was going and where he was thinking with it, and we would chat about it. But like going off and doing my own show.
But even that was really hard because we were doing it separately, Like usually it flows a lot more because of the necessity of being with the kids
Well,
and
so
school.
we're at a 10-foot long table. This is our studio and
Mhm.
dining room. And when kids go away, we work here during the day. And so this is like this is like my happy, comfy, happy zone. And I sit at one side and Ferris sits over there
So it's
on the other side. So we can actually like look at each other, have our own workspaces, but also, we're having a conversation all day long. Just, whatever, what have you, even if it's
And
like,
also,
do you
like,
need
yeah.
coffee? Just but I'm seeing what he's doing and he's seeing what I'm doing, and we're not language. You may be a language person, but I draw pictures.
You
But
do fine.
the kids being here all day long is, and this is like the middle of our house.
Mhm.
Essentially, our studio is the center of our home, right? It's the beating heart, and so I had to find other places to be, which has been kind of like the biggest struggle. So I've been moving wherever I can to find space, and that's part and parcel of being in San Francisco at this time. I wish.
Always.
Well, I mean, but I had the beautiful studio in the Mission, and it was $300, and it was a horse stable loft thing, and it was
Right.
the best place in the world. And then they tore that down and turned it into something else, right? But that's the ongoing story. But so I just need to find I just wish that the city would protect its cultural commerce
Sure.
Yeah.
a little bit more. That would be
Yeah.
great, because guess what? It's gone, a lot of it,
A lot of it.
and I don't know who would intervene, because there's so many other things in this world, but I mean, art drives commerce.
Yep.
Yes.
Agreed.
Well, in our little bubble of artists too, we kind of it was we're talking 12 years ago when we really saw our first mass exodus of art fans. A lot of people pushed off to the usual locations, LA and Portland, and
Yep.
back to
A
New
ton
York.
of people moved to LA.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting, and the reason I was asking about the collaboration right after we talked about the kind of the giving back to our communities, is because this collaboration has actually become a source of giving back for the two of you, and also for the people that are receiving either the benefit of it, which you do a lot of work with Hospitality House, who we mentioned earlier at the beginning of the interview. But I think that there's like a community feeling, and I can just say, listening to you right now, like I've got a million ideas going through my head on how I can be a better supportive art partner to my wife, who we're building a studio for on our property, because there is no space for her to paint right now. And I bought her a new DSLR camera for Christmas because she wants to start investigating that art form as well. And she has not really taken the time to do that before. And so how do we sort of support each other in that? So
Well, Kevin, you could start by building me a music studio while you're building all this stuff, because I need a place for my.
that's at
What about
2500
me?
Marin Street. I'm not sure if you remember that spot, but I think it's interesting to hear the two of you talk about your process, because I'm like, oh my god, I could buy into that. Wouldn't be exactly the same, because I do different things than Taylor, but like right now I'm in the process of figuring out how to get an 1800s stone litho press to my warehouse.
Wow.
And so that's something I can bring the stones home and do the prep work at home on. So I'm like, oh, I could do my stone litho prep work at home and bring the stones back and press the lithography there, right?
Absolutely.
So it's really like, okay, so how do we not do this separately, and how do we connect this?
Yeah,
And
kind of what Kelly was touching on and what you're touching on there is that it all comes from the same well, right? And that's, I mean, the commonality is that you're expressing yourself, and if you're able to honor each other's process in space. And I mean, like, half the fights we have are like, no, you take a day to do painting. No, like, no,
True.
it's like,
Sounds
you
familiar.
need it more than I do, and it really does. It's like making sure the other person has the space to do what they need to do.
Yeah.
There is some selflessness in that, and then there also needs to be time for you to be selfish and really work. There's certain things that just. Ugh.
But at the end of the day, it's also our job, right? Like this is
Right.
I don't like to, like, it's kind of grotesque to talk about money as relates to art. But commerce is part of what we have to do and figure out, and how to make it even fun for us.
Mhm.
And I love selling. I love selling artwork. I really do, and that is hard. It's a hard thing to want to sell your work. It's not something I take for granted. That's why a lot of people can't or don't have that desire. And I started selling work on a street corner on Thursdays, first Thursdays in Portland. I think I was 18. Well, okay, so you know of this.
Yeah, I used to live there.
I'm gonna take claim. This is 1995, 1996. We were the first people, my friends and I. I went one week, and my mom and dad were supportive, right? They're like, "Oh, you're gonna go sell artwork on a street corner in downtown Portland. Great, that sounds fun. We'll come find you. Like, that sounds amazing." And so I did it, and I made $300. I was sitting in front of the Starbucks.
Nice.
I was not gonna get into
Holy
those
moly.
galleries at 15 years old. I got $300, and I'm like, "That's fantastic." And then
Yeah.
I showed up another time, and I got $500, and people were coming back.
Boom.
And then there started being more people lined up beside me. Have you been to one of those?
Oh yeah.
First Thursday in
I used to
downtown?
go there in the early 2000s, like 2001.
Yeah, so I was there first.
That's amazing.
Whoa, amazing.
Well, not only that, but you asked a little bit about my skateboarding situation. One guy comes up one of these and is like, "Hey, I'm gonna buy your artwork. I like it. I've never bought artwork before." And I'm like, "Okay." And he says, "But I want you to come to tomorrow to our offices, and I want you to bring your sketchbook." And so I'm like, "Okay." And my mom's like, "Now what are you doing? What are you doing tomorrow?" And you're like 17, right?
Right.
Or whatever. And so I bring my sketchbook. I go to this interview, and it's the guys at Nemo who did Morrow K2, and they're still stalwarts in the skate, snow, surf scene. So I was working with those guys doing graphic design at a very very young age. So I've been in this very layered world of design plus art, and it's hard for me to diverge the two. To me, it's all kind of should and can be the same thing. I love the hand in design. It's very important to me, and it has always been so. I went to CCA, and that was all about pushing everything together. So I don't call myself one thing or another thing, really. But it is all art, like design and art together, illustration. It's hard for me to draw a line between brand or whatever. Like, commerce is part of all of it, right? And that's a bad word, and art circles, especially high art circles, but that's fun for us. Like, we want fun. So you've seen the posters, Kevin, that we've made for you, and that takes technical ability.
It does.
At the end of the day, it looks fun, but if I can do those separations myself, I'm really proud of that.
Yeah.
You know, and that I can convert his work into something that then can be printed in screen prints. And
Well, also, I mean, that's so weird about art to me because, or some art, because like music, it's not like it's mass produced. Like I buy records of that original recording, right? Or anything else. I feel like in art, like selling like a prints of it is like I just don't get the controversy, I guess.
Well, and that I think a lot of our movement was in reaction to like not being accepted by the uh, the gallery society here in San Francisco. Definitely,
Sure.
when I started going to openings, it felt very exclusive. It didn't feel like something that was approachable for. We weren't taken seriously at all,
ever.
and that's the other thing about our scene that's so cool is we were like, okay, fuck you, we're gonna go and do it ourselves. That's what I mean. Fecal Face was huge for that.
Yeah.
Without Fecal Face, I mean, where's the Fecal Face documentary?
Right.
Because that changed our entire world. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing without that platform. That changed. Suddenly, my art was being seen all over the world. I was getting all sorts of amazing offers and exposure just because of John Tripp taking some photos of our art and putting them on his website.
And someone took a picture of my stuff and is like, "Who made this?" in the bathroom at 111 Minute, right? And you know.
From a painting in a bathroom. Yeah. Exactly.
Well,
that's so cool.
I mean, and I think actually that reaction and what happened when we were talking about Receiver earlier, I can't remember through that stretch of time a weekend that I wasn't at somebody's opening. You know,
Absolutely.
like it was like every weekend there's like these young artists that weren't getting shows, you know, down on whatever, you know, Union Square or whatever the hell. I don't even know where the fine art galleries are, to tell you the truth. I'm so
Geary, and they're not there anymore.
Well, no,
it's gone.
Yeah,
but they were some of the first people.
Yeah. I mean, it was like go to the opening and then right afterwards head to Bottom of the Hill for whoever was playing on Friday night, right? I mean, that was kind of, you know, I mean, it was like we had such a vibrant art scene happening during that specific era, and you know, and that was part of why, you know, I think, you know, I feel a kinship with a lot of people from that time. I don't talk to Jay much anymore, but you know, like there's just a ton of people that were out and about all the time, and you know, a lot of times people would come to me and be like, "Hey, can you print this thing?" And it would be like this crazy, I'm like, I don't know, but we'll try, you know, like it was just like everybody was experimenting, you know, and a lot of times it came out great. And sometimes the prints were terrible. And I was learning how to use discharge inks and all kinds of other stuff and how to print on flat stock, which is a whole nother process. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's like, you know, I feel like there was just like so much like, hey, can I come to your shop and see how you do this too? Which was like, yeah, amazing. Yes, please come hang out. You know, like it just like, and people were, and I think that's one of the things like I noticed at that showing at 111 Minna right before kind of all this went down. And, you know, you guys, you did your show there and you did some collaborative work and you did some individual work that was really amazing. And the amount of people that showed up, it totally reminded me of that kind of period of time in terms of just the support, you know, and there was a lot of hugs and high fives and it was just really nice to see. So going back to the comments about the two of you collaborating, there's a gift that's given in that for the entire community, because what it really says is that this is all about connection and how do we connect with each other and how do we actually give that connection out to the people around us. And I think the two of you have done such a stellar job of that, not just with your artwork, but how you deal with people. You know, like there's just a kindness that's inherently there that you sort of like, a lot of people as adults get really fucking jaded and it kind of goes away. you know, the inherent kindness of childhood is kind of there. And I see it in your sons, even in the Instagram post now. But like, we ran into you at the park, you know, out off the lake, and Gus was just like totally flirting with my wife, was so cute. I mean, she still talks about him. Like, she's like, how is that little guy? You know, she's like, I'm like, well, he's not such a little guy anymore, but he's doing well, you know, and
No,
it's just like, but that you pass that along to your children in a way that allows them to take the gifts that you have and sort of refine them even more, you know, especially if you're living that example. And that's one of the things I just wanted to like really say to the two of you, and why I wanted to have you on, because I think this is our last show of the year, you know, and we have one more booked, and I don't know, Josh and I might take a break. I don't know yet. I mean, we just never know what what
yeah, you don't know
what the future may
hold.
bring. But, you know, I think having the two of you on and just being able to state that out loud too, like, it's something to aspire to. And I know that's not
Absolutely.
necessarily, it may not be your intention like all the time, but that intention is there and it's felt. And, you know, it just is like, it's nice to see people succeeding and being together and raising children and like having such a powerful connection to their chosen community. You know, it feels like extended family.
You know what? It is totally intentional, and it is something that is important to both of us as artists. So we feel grateful, like we're doing something that neither of us thought was possible. We feel, you know, I'm so fortunate to be able to work to create, and people from all over the world resonate with our work. We get to work with such awesome people. We're open, and we're also living in a city where there's too much disparity. There's too much hurt of going. You know, we have our bubble, and we love our bubble, and we live and play in there often. But I would be doing a disservice to my children and to our community if I didn't help. You know, and like at least try to raise whatever awareness we can to, you know, San Francisco is, it's, you know, it's a mess, and there's other messes all over the world, and everybody can have a voice and can help, and even if it's just making someone smile or laugh or think, or, you know, all that stuff is so important, and we really, we want our kids to be responsible, cool citizens that are aware that they are lucky because of where they live, because of the color of their skin, because of all the little things that have been planned out for them, just because of where we live and who we are, you know. And that's, if our art, our silly art, my little pizzas with penises or whatever I'm deciding to draw at night, makes me laugh, which is really important, you know. And I have I mean, I lucked out with Kelly being so supportive and patient, and, you know, with Jimmy, with Forrest Walker and his whole group of friends that he really, you know, we've supported each other over the years, and we wouldn't be where we are without other people. I know I'm not the most technically talented artist in the world, you know, and I don't try to be. I just, you know, that's not our goal. It's like get our story out, and then
We just keep going. I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know. But we do have two first generation Californians,
San Franciscans.
San Franciscans in our house. They are our children, and we're here for a reason. And I've always loved it here. But I'm from Oregon, and you, sir, from
The Garden State.
New Jersey.
Jersey.
So
Watch
you know, we
Well, you know,
we hope that they will make as great an impact, if not greater than us, because they
Well,
are
and
wonderful kids.
believe me, this isn't coming from like a, oh, I know it all but I've been working in social enterprise for 20 years. And when people inspire me, I like to share that, because it's, it's hard. Like, even though I try to stay positive, it's hard sometimes, especially with all the changes that have happened in SF over the last 20 years. But I will say this, the reason that I do what I do is because San Francisco is a community, and San Francisco is a city and a county, and its criminal justice system, as fucked up as it is, saved my life when I needed it. So I think it's my job to give that back to the people that are looking for that same rescue.
Absolutely.
And so to finish the story about that last show, I stayed way longer than I had planned. The women from Hospitality House essentially kidnapped me and were just telling me every single thing awesome about the program, and like in a good way. Like, I was obviously a willing participant. They're completely amazing.
Yes.
And and the reason I even wanted to investigate it was because the two of you said you should really check out this organization. Let's give them some shirts for the opening. And I was like, all right, I'll pay for the shirts. Let's do it. And it turned out really well for them. But that's the kind of stuff that, like, if you're not watching, you don't catch. You don't see it. And I like to be aware of what's going on around me, but I also think there's times where people need to kind of like, hey, Kevin, check out this other org. It's not all about you, and that was one of those moments for me. And I've like been an avid supporter of them since. And we actually donate our Patreon money from this show to them. So,
Awesome.
it's we try to put our money where our mouth is.
They are,
Yeah.
it's hard for us, like, it's hard for anyone to sort through organizations and find the most worthy, right? And fortunately, what had happened is Olivia and a few galleries had asked us to donate our artwork over the years, and we made them a lot of money. And they came to us and they said, you guys you're our top donors. Do you know what we do? And I'm like, no. Tell me more.
Well, my personal story is that my brother, my middle brother, was homeless in San Francisco when he was struggling with his bipolar issue and getting himself balanced. And it was a Hospitality House is one of those places that hated him, and I knew of them way before I knew about the art program or anything. I knew of them as a community outreach program that helped all sorts of people with everything. And they do so much amazing work. And they do it in a way that's maybe, a little under the radar. A lot of people don't know about it. It's hard to promote something that people are constantly trying to sweep under the carpet, And so they've always been fighting an uphill battle. And they're amazing.
But we love them because they were very early supporters of the LGBTQ community, the AIDS afflicted here in San Francisco, and it evolved from there. But their art center is alive and well, and we love all the people that work for them. It's just them. I can't say enough now. I now have been able to sit and have coffee or go and visit and tour and, be involved as much as I can be. And, it's unbelievably beautiful. And, I'm happy to have found something that makes a lot of sense to spend a lot of time.
Well, and Kevin, what he does for people, I mean, it was just like, it was one of those, wait, why? An assumed quantity too, right? Where we're like, oh, wait, you don't know these people?
Well, I didn't know. So
we're a little guilty of that too, where I was like, oh, Okay, well, you absolutely have to meet these people.
It's alternately a very large city and a very small city.
It is.
It's so
Yeah,
weird.
for sure.
For its 49 miles, you kind of like can drill down into your little space and your little hole and just be there, right? And you know,
Being parents, as you know, too. I completely
tunnel vision, right? And
you're obsessed with your
it's
situation.
good. I mean, I'm absolutely honest in the fact that sometimes I don't know everything. Don't repeat.
Well, you just it's now
Good place to be, Kelly. Good place to be.
Unfortunately, we're running up on time here, Kev, so we're gonna have to get them back. I want every guest to just come back.
I know.
You know what
We
I
didn't
mean?
even like talk about all the shows and traveling and all that stuff yet, and the DeYoung and MoMA, and there's just like so much actual. But it's like these are the conversations we have on the show, and that's why I was telling Ferris, like when we were joking earlier about, are you going to send me the answers? I was like, we don't even know where it's going to go. We have no clue. Like we have no better idea than my 3-year-old does about where the hell this show is going to go any day. So,
well,
and it's
quickly. I think the important thing, the running thread between all of these things, that is, even if it's hard, we have fun. We find a way to make whatever it is absolutely fun, or we won't do it. And I think that's the number one thing. Like what it is, kind of. I don't want to say that it doesn't matter, but it's how do we make it fun? The things the opportunities that come that we're able to pull off. Can we pull it off? Let's find out. Like that is fun.
Yeah.
Let's make it happen. Like it's like let's put on a show, right?
Totally.
Agreed.
So let's put on a show, and 2021, I'm here for you. I'm ready for a new year, obviously, but.
Well, hopefully 2021 will bring us some more Built to Spill tour posters and
don't tease me.
Other things to collaborate on.
I think I'm about to show up on Doug Marsh's front yard and demand my own concert.
I texted him not that long ago, and probably. I asked him how he's doing, and he's like, "Not any worse than anyone else, Kev." So, I think that's about the like the bottom line, and the fun thing is absolutely key to life. There's nothing better than laughter, and that's, I think, one of the biggest things that I can say I can take. Especially my dynamic with Ferris has been so fun over the years, and just like the random text messages and things that just are delightful. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh my God. Don't forget to laugh, because it's really important, and especially since we both have tabby cats now. So
matching,
yes,
matchy kitties.
Yes, exactly.
Well, and as life goes, if you don't reach out and say hello and remind people that you're there, it goes quick.
It does. All right. Well, so we mentioned Hospitality House. We do give our money from our Patreon, which is basically podcast support kind of money, over to them. They support individuals that are struggling with mental health issues and substance abuse issues by using a peer-to-peer counseling model, which is amazing. And they also have an art therapy program, which is completely mind-blowing. So, and what was mentioned before is once a year they have what they call the auction, and local artists donate work to auction off to support their programs. And Kelly and Ferris have been instrumental in raising money for them during that, and also telling people about the program. So we love Hospitality House. We're going to continue to give to them until further notice. And I just want to thank the two of you so much for coming on. I mean, like this could not have been the more perfect way for me personally as a host to end the year. And
everything we like about guests and everything we kind of want from a show, you have provided.
Yes.
Oh, that's so nice.
I studied really hard last night.
I don't talk to many people these days, so that's nice.
Yep.
Talk to them.
So happy New Year to the two of you, and thank you so much.
Love that you
and
guys
thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah, be good.
Ciao.